All right, welcome back to the EO podcast. Today we have Tod Vanderhei from Stark Health. He's our first sponsor or strategic alliance partner to the chapter joining us. I'm really excited for that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, I'm really interested to hear your story and talk about your experience in EO. And again, we really try to engage the sponsors. I think they add a tremendous amount of value to the chapter, and hopefully we can reciprocate. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, where you came from, and how you grew up?
Well, I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Army. And I was born in Hokkaido, Japan, just because he was stationed there. So we moved around quite a bit when I was really small, and then we ended up settling in New Jersey. My dad was trying to get a job in the CIA when he left the military.
Interesting.
And I think it was Nixon put a freeze on government hiring way back then. And as a result, he had to scramble and try to find a job, and landed with Pfizer in Manhattan. And so we ended up living in New Jersey. Stayed there until my early teens, and then the family moved to Minnesota. They wanted to be closer to their Midwestern upbringing. My parents are originally from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Packers fans, of course. They met at a football game, a high school football game, and got married when they were very, very young. Yeah. And so all the Vanderheis, all of my cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody, they're all in the Green Bay, the greater metropolitan Green Bay area. It's kind of funny to say it like that because there's really no metropolitan area.
Well, that's interesting. My entire family's in upstate New York, and I mean everybody. Yeah. Cousins, second cousins, brothers,
like
sisters. I'm the only outcast here.
Yeah, we're the outcasts. I think we've got it better. Yeah, for sure.
I would agree. What was that transition like? So you're in a very true metro area. I'm in northern New Jersey. Your dad's in Manhattan.
Yep.
So in your mid-teens, you moved from there to something I'm assuming is completely different culturally.
Completely different. It was a rough transition. Yeah. Because I had to say goodbye to all my friends, my beautiful little girlfriend, Veronica Wickpish.
Shout out to Veronica.
Yeah, Veronica, wherever you are, I miss you, honey. It was hard. It was a very different culture. It was, and I think reflecting back on it, it was a little bit of a step up socioeconomically, meaning I would describe my New Jersey friends and our neighborhood as like right down the middle of middle class, maybe the lower end of that. Yeah. My parents were younger, of course, and then moving to Minnesota, they were a little bit more well established. So it was maybe an upper middle class kind of a situation. I was surrounded by high school friends. Reflecting back on that it seemed like they had money. I never really felt like we did, but it seemed awkward. They had nice clothes, designer jeans. It was the first time I was in school with girls. I was in an all boys high school briefly in New Jersey, and then in Minnesota there were girls there, and there were no uniforms, and so it was kind of a startling.
At the right age too.
Yeah,
right?
At the right age, I was like, what is going on here? Those look like breasts to me. I mean, it was a shock, and they all had funny accents, in Minnesota, and they thought that I had a funny accent. Yeah. So it was a difficult transition and a very, as you know, difficult time of life. I was 14. Yeah. So I was heading into those teenage years and all the awkwardness that comes with that.
So you make this transition over there. Did you have any entrepreneurial kind of pursuits or ambitions at a young age, or is that something that developed later in life?
That's a great question. I would say absolutely. Right in my earliest years, my first chance to work was as a paperboy when those things existed. I have an older brother. He's just a year and a half older, and he got a paper route. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? You've got a lot of dollar bills from tips and stuff.
Bunch of $1 bills.
Yeah,
I remember.
and it was like it must have been, I don't know, an hour's worth of work a day or something. Yeah. And so he connected me with his manager, Mr. Bender, and Mr. Bender needed another, paperboy, and I ended up taking on 3 different paper routes because I was like, well, 1 is good. What if I had 2 and 3? Sure. Pay me 2 and 3 times the amount of money I would make. Didn't seem like a lot of work to me. And that was my first exposure to feeling like I had some control of my own destiny and the freedom that money brought me. Sure. I was able to take Veronica on a date, at the movie theater, which was $1.50 back then.
I remember we said they used to have $2 Tuesdays.
Yeah, yeah. So
it wasn't tacos; it was theater.
So it's a good question. It started early on. It was just the excitement of being able to to take initiative and have it turn into something tangible.
Yeah.
Is what I experienced in those.
And so, did you go to college after high school?
Yeah, I went to St. John's University in Minnesota.
What did you study there?
I studied business, and I had a minor in fine art and English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, well-rounded.
Yeah, I mean, it's a liberal arts school.
Yeah, sure. So, anything during college on the business side, or really just hunkered down studying, socializing?
Yeah, that's another good question. I didn't have a car when I was a freshman, and I have hair, so I needed a haircut periodically, and I couldn't drive anywhere to get one. And I didn't have any money, so I took with me my dad's clippers that he used to butcher me and destroyed my social life, or attempted to destroy my social life when I was really little. And so one afternoon, I just started cutting my own hair, and I don't know what it looked like. I don't have pictures. There were no iPhones back then.
Yeah.
And a neighbor asked me in the dorm, like, "Hey, can you do that for me too?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And then another neighbor asked, and I said, "Sure." But the next one is $3, and so I started giving out free haircuts, and then $3 after that. And by the time I was a junior, I became a resident assistant, and I had access to all these customers.
Yeah.
In my dorm.
Sure.
I was booked like 3 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, and I had wads of dollar bills from them paying me. I mean, I must have looked like a stripper. So much, small bill cash.
Yeah, sure.
And I was so successful that a neighboring actual business in the town where the school was reported me, and I got shut down by the.
Oh, you were taking their clients.
Yeah. I was practicing.
You're making
illegal
material harm
cosmetology
on their business.
Yeah, yeah.
Did they offer to hire you?
They didn't offer to hire me. No, they didn't. I actually had to go underground. I'm sharing this detail with you today because I'm outside of the state. They can't get me. Yeah. I took advance payments from the ROTC guys who needed haircuts like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I charged them all $50 at the beginning of the school year. They can have as many haircuts as they want throughout the school year. I made thousands of dollars in like the first couple weeks of school.
That's awesome.
But then I had to continue to service them.
Sure.
So I started making
those are easy haircuts, though, right?
They're easy.
Yeah.
Well, they're sort of easy. All I wanted is weird high and tight thing, where it's like to the skin and then blended to the top.
Yeah.
So a little bit technical, but I got good at it.
Yeah.
So that was my first entrepreneurial endeavor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you finish college, what's next?
When I graduated from school, it was a difficult economic time. It was 1990. And so there were freezes on hiring all over the place. Like all the large companies were shutting down their recruiting. So I ended up scrounging for work and ended up in sales, selling the first plain paper copy or plain paper fax machine.
Okay.
Not very exciting.
We just got rid of ours about 2 years ago.
Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, man. Well, this thing was we charged like $5,000 for this thing. It was giant. Mm-hmm. I'd wheel it around downtown Minneapolis, starting at the top of a building, work my way down. And I'd walk through an office door and introduce myself and say, "I'm here to see the president. Can you let him know I'm here, please?"
Yeah.
And sort of try to, old school sales, force my way into the office and get a chance at doing a presentation as to why they should spend thousands of dollars on this particular fax machine instead of the little one that worked perfectly fine. So it was a very difficult. It was so stressful that I would go back to my car in the heated garage space that I had and sleep for like 3 hours straight. And I'd pop out, just sort of shake off the sleep and then go back into the building and continue to try to sell. And I was so terrible at it, I decided I should not be in sales.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So I had a group of high school kids through here about, 3 weeks ago. So we did a tour from the Business Academy at Orange Lutheran. Mm-hmm. So we had 115 kids or so coming through in 4 waves. And one of the things we talked about was sales. They said, what do you think the most important skill is? And I said, it's sales. And I said, everybody's in sales. I said, your parents are in sales. They're trying to get you to behave or do what they want you to do. They're trying to influence you, et cetera. I said, you're in sales. You're trying to manipulate your parents to get what you want, et cetera. In a business, you're in sales from so many different standpoints. You're obviously you're trying to sell customers, but you're also selling your employees, you're selling your vendors, et cetera. So I think, a lot of people hate sales. I did a lot of sales in college. I worked at Foot Locker and, those types of Record Town, and those types of things.
Sure.
But I think that skill is so important because accepting rejection is extremely important. I think in any aspect of life, whether it's dating or business or a friendship or anything you're trying to do in the community, if you're not able to handle rejection well, you're probably going to stop yourself from getting anywhere near your potential. So I heard you say you really hated it. And not everybody's going to go be sales. That's their job, like as a profession. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're absolutely right. I got out of sales at that moment, and then a couple years later got back into sales. And reflecting back on my career, it's still sales.
Sure.
It's just that particular position with that job, with that product line, with the training, my level of maturity, it just wasn't developed. I was sort of destined to fail, and I'm not pointing any blame at anyone. It's certainly me that wasn't fully developed. I just didn't have it at that point in time.
Sure.
I didn't have the right perspective.
How did you develop those skills as you got older? Repetition or training or a combination or?
Yeah, a combination. I mean, really, most of it was just the constant pursuit. And I'm sure you share this too. The constant pursuit of learning, and that was just something that it's always been a part of my makeup.
Yeah.
If I thought it was important, if I did, like I wasn't a great student when I was a kid.
Sure.
But because I didn't think it was important, it was something I had to do. But if I connected it to a goal, everything starts surrounding that particular area of
You
education.
become a sponge.
I become a sponge, yeah.
It's interesting you say that. I send my family a gratitude email each morning. So I come up with 2 or 3 things I'm grateful for. I send it to my wife and my 3 kids.
That's awesome.
And this morning, one of the things I wrote was, I'm grateful that I like education and I like learning. And I said, I'm blessed to be born in a time period where I have the world in my phone, in my hand, right? Where especially now with AI, you don't even have to go through and comb 80 different websites. You can go on Grok or Perplexity or whatever, and you can become a functional expert as long as you're sophisticated enough to filter out the BS, right? And do some fact checking and whatnot. It's amazing how much you can learn. And if you pick a topic and you want to be a sponge on it, I'm sure we'll get into that later when we get into your main business now. I'm very interested in learning about health and wellness, and it's just fascinating, So I think education's so important. It doesn't have to be I'm in a classroom, being told something in a very strict fashion.
Yeah, it's accessibility to knowledge is so easy today. It really is all about asking the right questions. How do you figure out what you should want to know about? And as you said, how do you course correct maybe information that's not quite right? How do you spot that?
Yeah.
It's a fascinating time to learn today.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I told those high school kids, I said, people say this is the hardest time for young people. And I said, it is if you're not motivated and you don't have a plan. But I'd also argue it's the easiest time ever because you have the access to the world right here. And this can either be a distraction or it can be just an extremely powerful tool. Like when you think about, we do a lot of social media marketing and digital marketing, et cetera. My business would never be able to afford the amount of marketing that we're doing now. Even 6 or 7 years ago, it would be millions and millions of dollars a year. But now you can hire a couple people. Or you can start with yourself, right? And you can put yourself out there. And there's Instagram and there's LinkedIn and there's TikTok. And if you're persistent and consistent and you educate yourself about the right way to do that, you can basically market yourself as a Fortune 500 company for free. Right. And so I think for young people, I'm very inspired by that. I really try to indoctrinate my kids with that. And it's just an interesting time to be alive for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, we're right on the precipice of massive change at the
I
rate
think
we've never experienced. I mean,
I think we're born at a great time, right? I love my childhood. I'm riding a BMX bike and I'm running around and drinking out of a hose and coming home when the streetlights go off.
Drinking out of a hose.
But now I get to see all this cool tech too. It's like I think it's an interesting bubble to live in. This little time frame that we have.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
So I know you were in manufacturing for a decent part of your career, right? In a more corporate environment. So can you take me through that a little bit?
Yeah, I was exposed to the carpet industry on the manufacturing side as I tried to get out of a management position I was in and move back into sales. Interestingly, and started learning about making things and raw materials and supply chains and product differentiation, pricing, and the cultural impact of the cultural impact on a brand through the lens of a sales rep. So I was in the Midwest still, in Minnesota where I first got into that business. Then moved to Chicago, did the same thing there, and then realized I needed to get closer to the actual manufacturing. I didn't want to just be in sales, so I moved to California and worked for a manufacturer called Fabrica.
Where in California were you?
Orange County.
Okay, so you've been here for a while now.
I've been here for 26 years or so, 27 years.
Yep. And so take me through the move there and what you were doing there.
Well, I came out to California to take over the western part of the country, the western sales organization for the manufacturing company, because it was just kind of a struggling part of the business. And I turned that around and moved my way through the rest of the country, took over the entire country, and some out of country distribution, and eventually worked my way into the position of president, ran the entire business. It was acquired by a publicly traded company.
What was the size of the business at that time?
It was about, just Fabrica was about 60 million in revenue.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty good size.
Yeah. It was a strangely profitable business in a very slim margin industry. But we were
You're in a niche.
In a niche, yep.
Yeah.
Just like Stark. I mean, a lot of the same ways of thinking, the brand building concepts spring from my experiences at Fabrica. Yeah. How do you take something that is somewhat ubiquitous, like fitness, and turn it into something so uniquely spectacular that you can charge a premium for it because of the value proposition to the consumer?
Yeah, I think that's great. It's the same with Pacific Hardwood. So, I'm a car guy, so I would say we're the Ferrari of flooring, right? So there's all sorts of flooring out there. But if we can do custom at scale and we can provide a superior customer experience, then we've differentiated ourselves. And then price is not really the main consideration. It really isn't much of a consideration within reason, obviously, right? And that's where the profitability comes from. I'm going to see Alex Hormozy in Vegas next month.
Oh, really?
You know
cool.
who he is?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm a fan.
I'm going to spend 2 days there. I'm really excited about it. And, one thing he always talks about is, look, one of the best pieces of advice he gives for business is find something you can sell to wealthy people, right? Because you're going to have less customers, which is a good thing, right? They're not going to be a headache generally because what they're buying is a very small percentage of their net worth. And you can create a niche where you can go in there and dominate a space, right? And then you can scale that and as much as you can and move it. So I'm going to be interested to see kind of below just the surface level stuff I've learned what happens there. But I really enjoy that you were able to take your corporate role and move that into your own business. So the Fabrica was acquired, you said, by a public company. Was that the end of your tenure there, or were you there for a period after that?
No, I was there for 5 or 6 years past that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like? So you've got a small business. I mean, 60 million is not small, but it's small from a public standpoint.
Yeah,
right?
Especially as a carpet manufacturer, it's very, very small.
Yeah. So now you're acquired by a public company. What was the cultural transformation like as you were there?
It was very tenuous. So Fabrica was an entrepreneurial small business with team members that had been there for decades. I was one of the newest, frankly. There were people that had been there for 20 years, 25 years.
Yep.
And so that sort of family-oriented culture was built into Fabrica. And the parent company, it's called the Dixie Group, they attempted to have something similar, but the pursuit, the focus on performance wasn't quite the same. I would describe, and I think the Dixie Group people were really wonderful people. I would describe the culture, though, from a performance standpoint, more like the post office.
Yeah.
And Fabrica was more like a Ferrari.
Lean, mean, agile.
Yeah. Like very dedicated, very concerned about what the customer experience was like. Everybody was willing to go above and beyond. From the customer service people all through the sales organization, the manufacturing team. Most of the people were in manufacturing. Most of the employee population was made up of manufacturing people. So there was a definite built-in friction, which I think is common in M&A.
Yeah.
There's always some cultural friction, and we experienced a lot of that. The parent company wanted us to expand manufacturing into some of their facilities, and the quality we didn't think was good enough.
Yeah.
And they wanted to, of course, lower their cost of production with more throughput. And we were averse to that kind of thing. We manufactured slowly, higher quality, charged massive prices for them. So it was a difficult time to navigate. And eventually, I ended up getting fired because I told them I can't run the business like this.
There wasn't a cultural fit anymore.
There was just too much friction, and I didn't see. We were performing so well. Essentially, I told the board, I don't think I can continue to do this. I don't think I can continue to perform like this in the year coming up. I think it's over. And
how old were you at this point?
I was 35 in my last board meeting.
Well, that's interesting. So I was in corporate life until I was 36.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So similar exit from there. So
Yeah.
did you go right from that into founding Stark Health, or was there something, a bridge in the middle?
No, when I was in the Midwest, specifically in Chicago, I started investing in real estate.
Yeah.
And then I exchanged those properties into Southern California, in Orange County, and I expanded that, and decided when I got fired from Fabrica, I would just continue to build my real estate portfolio.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, lost everything. It took 2 years.
So you had a very exciting ride for a brief period of time, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say that it felt to me, how slowly time went back by then.
Yeah.
From like my early career, 25-ish, all the way through early 40s, it just felt like a straight upswing. Everything was like, everything I touched turned to gold, couldn't make any mistakes. And I thought that way about myself.
Yep.
I'm different today.
Life will humble you at some point.
Yeah. And in retrospect, it was really good to be humbled.
Sure.
In the moment, it was an experience of, I would say, pretty severe depression. Matter of fact, I was on Prozac to help with that. My wife, who's now my ex-wife, I mean, God bless her for suffering me through all of those years and going through all that. Yeah, we were married for 22 years. Going through that with me, of course, made the marital circumstances very rocky. But she took me to the doctor, like literally drove me to the doctor because I couldn't get myself to go.
Wow.
And he wrote me a prescription. And I'm not a big fan of SSRIs in general. I understand how they affect the human body in total now.
Sure.
And I had no idea back then. But for me, it really was helpful, like maybe a 4-month bridge to try to get me to start taking some action so I can try to, get my life back in order.
And how did you get it back in order? What did that look like?
I don't think it got back in order very quickly. What happened is just to give you a more complete picture, I would describe myself as deep into a midlife crisis. I mean, I remember standing in my jacuzzi in San Clemente, and I had a nice view of the ocean, and there was this wonderful breeze coming through, and it was blowing through my long hair. Which is kind of funny when I reflect on that, thinking, what's such an idiot. and my BlackBerry rang on the side of the jacuzzi, and it was a strength coach who was referred to me by a friend who was about to fold his gym, about to go out of business, and that's what Stark is today. It wasn't Stark back then.
So you were a consultant in the business at first?
He asked me to help, and what I told him was, well, I'm probably going to have to move to Georgia because I'll get back into the carpet manufacturing industry, but until then I'll help you.
Yep.
And what actually happened is I just stopped my pursuit of trying to get a job in that moment and focused on his business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how did that turn from you helping a friend of a friend into you being the business owner?
Well, a couple of weeks after, just to give you a visual, I asked, his name's Brad, he's really a sweet guy. I asked him to give me the books so I can start understanding what's going on with the business.
Sure.
And his office manager handed me like those big binder checkbooks.
A literal book?
A checkbook, like the old school checkbooks.
Yeah.
And so then I had to create the books. So
they didn't even have books?
He didn't have books. He just had a checkbook.
Interesting.
So I created the structure of the financials and got a sense of how the money flowed, and there really wasn't any, to be honest. There were no employees. They were all independent contractors. There were people renting space. There really wasn't a business. Like if I wasn't sound, if I were sound,
you would have ran away.
I would have moved to Georgia and taken a job and done a better job for my family in that moment. I mean, in hindsight, it worked out beautifully, but it really wasn't a business.
Wasn't the rational, practical.
No, it was really. I needed to be needed, desperately. Reflecting back on the moment, and he needed me, and that's it. That's really
sometimes
it.
That's all you need. What I find interesting, I've experienced this in EO. I'm on the board, and I've done a lot of interviews for prospective members, et cetera, and whatnot. And one of the main business knowledge pieces anyone will give you is you need to know your numbers, right? And it amazes me how many business owners have no clue what their numbers are. They're like, oh, my revenue is $4.5 million. Okay, what are your gross margins? I don't know. All right, what are your cost of goods? I don't know. What's your revenue per employee? I don't know. Right? And I think to myself, well, how are you in business, right?
Yeah.
At some point, that's going to catch up with you, right? And I think that much like young people, luckily, I think this is starting to change. There's not a lot of financial literacy from a personal perspective, right?
Do you think this is changing?
I do.
Oh.
I think I see schools starting to teach financial literacy, and then I see at least a subset of students, because I think they see all this entrepreneur stuff online. If they're on TikTok or Instagram, they're going onto YouTube. There's a subset of sponges like you and I are, right? That are saying, okay, I need to learn money. Right.
I like that. I hope that's going to continue.
It's exciting and inspiring. Yeah. I think it's really social media that's driven some of that. Now, that doesn't mean everybody is by any stretch, but I think there's hope that a quarter or a third of the people understand at least personal financial literacy.
Yeah.
And then in business, it does astound me how many businesses are out there that are really clueless about what's going on.
That sounds scary to me.
So you walked into one of those situations. You get the books. I don't want to say the books in order, but you create books.
Yeah, I created them.
Right.
And we started.
And what is that journey like to get to be the guy who says, I want to buy this from you, or I'm going to take this over, or.
Well, what happened is, so it was just essentially a personal training business, and mostly focused on young athletes. So that was kind of cool. It was strength training more specifically.
And did you have a background in that at all?
No,
at that point?
No,
You're just the business
everything
guy
that you know
coming
about. Yep.
Yeah.
No background. It seemed like a good idea to have a healthy body.
Yeah.
I thought I'd always worked out. I thought that I knew something about that, and I knew nothing.
Yeah.
Like absolutely nothing. I knew how to destroy my body. I didn't recognize I was doing it, and reflecting back on it, I did.
Yeah.
Like I screwed up my back, my shoulders, my neck, on and on and on.
You remember when I came to visit your facility, you were explaining traditional weightlifting, right? And what you're actually doing to your joints when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Versus how to properly exercise the muscle based on the purpose you want to have for it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I knew nothing. He opened my eyes to, he was the beginning of all that. Yeah. But it was a struggle. We didn't have any money. I had $60,000 left. We needed to get out of that location, start the business from scratch. And I needed about $100,000 in total for that. I took $42,000 of my last 60, and I didn't have an income. I had a family. I don't know how we even got by, to be honest. And I asked some friends to lend some money. They lent us about $35,000 at 20% interest or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a time. This is the end of 2010.
Yeah.
There was no money being lent
for sure.
That point. It was like everything was at a standstill.
I remember getting a mortgage in 2010.
Oh, really?
It was like an act of Congress.
Even
though all my books were good, it was still like, now we need this, now we need that, now we need this.
Totally different than 2007.
For sure.
Totally different.
Sign here. Here's some cash. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you bootstrapped some money, and what do you do with it?
Well, I put some of it into the construction of the new location. The landlord, of course, helped with a lot of that. Bought some new equipment, hired like 2 people, tried to transfer as many clients as we possibly could from the original business. Some went, some didn't.
Where's the new location? Is it where
it's in Irvine?
Is it the place I went to?
No.
Okay.
No. Main and on Von Carmen.
Got it.
Yeah, like Main and Von Carmen, right?
Okay.
Not far from where we are currently.
Sure.
It was a mixed use, like a warehouse, small office type of a situation.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible struggle. I mean, I remember going in at like 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, just rolling in and walking into the building, and it's perfectly quiet, and thinking, what the hell am I doing? I'm trying to make this work. I have nothing. How is this ever going to possibly work? Like, there's no cash flow. And
now you threw your own money into the business, so now you're an equity partner, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So at that stage,
I'm assuming the majority partner.
We're 50-50 partners.
Got it.
Again, I'm not totally sound, right? It took like 5 years to get to a point where I started thinking, oh, I'm kind of back to normal psychologically.
Yeah.
It was a long stretch. I needed a mentor to grab me and say, hey, you need to bounce back. You're so wrapped up in your failures that it's preventing you from moving forward. I was so afraid to make mistakes.
And this is the combination of the career imploding and the marriage imploding.
Yes.
Very close from the time.
Yep.
Each
all
other.
Sort of seemingly happening at the same time.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, it was a rough time. So it was about 5 years. Well, just to back up a little bit, 1 year in, we were having our clients, we call them students. We were having our students eat a lot of red meat
Yep.
and do a lot of strength training. And they were getting decent results, we thought. We had no method to really measure. But then there were highlights that popped up in that year in 2012 about how red meat causes cancer and heart disease.
Yeah.
It was all over the freaking place. And people are freaking out. They're going to their doctors. Their doctors are saying, wow, you look amazing. Your labs look great, but you better not eat like you have been because you're going to die. And these are the reasons why. This is all the research, and these are the headlines. They all said that. I'm sure not all of them. All the doctors in our ecosystem did, meaning the doctors that were working with our students. And after maybe 4 or 5 came through my office and said, you guys are killing me.
Yeah, and those studies were all based on very limited points of data, right?
They weren't even full
not
study,
taking into account that a lot of these red meat eaters are smokers and drinkers. And this, that, and the
Absolutely.
third.
And then what's red meat? It was like salami
Yeah.
and summer sausage
Sure.
and bologna.
Yep.
It was all of that stuff. It was really a bit of a travesty, but I didn't know that at the moment. I didn't
So
understand.
that material impacted your business.
It impacted our business.
You lost some credibility.
We lost credibility. Yeah. So it kind of blunted our growth, and I also started freaking out because I was eating like that.
Sure.
And I was feeling good for probably the first time in my life.
Yeah. Less inflammation and energy.
Yeah. I mean, I had headaches nearly my entire life. I had migraines periodically my entire life. Always like inflamed, runny nose, like allergy symptoms.
Yeah.
Just and exhausted, and joint pain. Like as a young man, I just dealt with it, and they were all sort of like going away. So I, in that freak out moment, I went and saw my doctor, and he said the same thing. It's like your cholesterol, your total cholesterol is 207. I mean, total cholesterol today, I don't know that you know that, but in our circles, it's almost a waste of ink if you're printing that report.
Yeah, 300 used to be normal. Now
Yeah,
they want it to be like
it's-
150,
yeah.
which is not even realistic.
Yeah, and we wonder today whether or not cholesterol is actually even something to be considered as a part of determining whether or not someone's healthy. So it's not clear. And my doctor was presenting the idea that it was clear and that it was going to kill me. And then he cited the same research that the other doctors through our students were citing as well. And so I asked him, well, will you speak with Brad? He's the one that's telling me to eat all these ribeye steaks for breakfast.
Sure.
Will you? And can I listen to that conversation? And he said no. He just rejected me. He's like, we don't do that. We can't bill for that. He was almost seemed to be offended that I would have someone that may have an alternative opinion that's not an MD that I would think I should consider as an advisor.
Sure.
That only he should be my advisor. And so I was driving home or back to the office, and I was kind of confused. I had my a handful of the lab results, and I was frustrated, and I wondered, well, why can't I just put my own team together? Why can't I have, going back to product launches, which were maybe a $500,000 to $2 million project inside of our manufacturing business. It was a risk. Before doing so, I would have at a table like this the key people in the business. So the CFO and the manufacturing guy, the product development guy, someone heading up sales, and we would talk about the product, everything from whether or not it can be actually manufactured without a lot of claims, without a lot of manufacturing defects, to the desirability of the product to the consumer, to the uniqueness of the product, whether or not it was something that would enhance our competitive advantage. And that I wanted to occur for the human body, which is a work product that we don't even know everything about. I knew everything about that carpet, like everything about it.
Sure.
We are learning that we really don't know much about the human body.
Well, and every human body is a little bit different, too.
Everyone's
right? We'll have different
a bit different.
chemistry and
Yeah.
biology and genetics.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but technically, you and I and your friend here, we're 99.5% the same genetically. Epigenetically, which is what you do with your body, the thoughts you have, the food you eat, how much you sleep, your relationships, those determine which genes you're going to turn on and off. And that's where there's a tremendous amount of diversity. But we also have control over those things, which is a really interesting sidebar. And I didn't understand all those things at that moment. Like, we are steering our own ships from a health standpoint.
Yeah.
Our genetics are really just kind of coming along for the ride. And there can be some serious genetic problems, but you would know about those with you at this stage.
So you're driving back to the office and you're frustrated because your doctor basically thinks he's God because he read a study and doesn't want to hear anything from anybody else. And you have this light bulb go off that says, why can't I build a team? And I'm assuming that's what moved to the differentiator in your business over time. So what did that look like?
That was the moment that the beginnings of what you see inside of Stark, that's where it occurred. It occurred in that moment, the idea. And so I immediately went to work at trying to create that. So I talked to lawyers and navigated to a group that specialized in creating management services organizations like Hoag Hospital, businesses inside of the state of California, which is an anti-corporate practice of medicine state, to operate the way I envisioned within the confines of the laws of the state of California, and be able to accomplish what I described, having that team, like in manufacturing, that looked at the human body like we looked at a piece of carpet.
Yeah.
And just pick it apart and understand and debate. And I imagine, this doesn't really occur today, not yet. I imagine that the student would be in the center of that conversation, and that there'd be surrounded by the student would be the team members necessary to help navigate either lab results or goals, or even shape what the goals should be based on lab results, and make sure that the diagnostic tools that we had were also complete. So like labs aren't enough. Needing to have accurate body composition data is also really important, which is a whole nother rabbit hole I ended up going down. And you kind of saw the
with the DEXA scans.
That was a down the road process as we kind of spun through a bunch of solutions to give us that data.
So you have this team together, and what was the scaling process like from a client standpoint? Was it you really got onto something very quickly and it was like, well, we're onto something here, and it started moving fast, or was it a slow burn?
I would say it was a slow burn. I would say that our students had no idea, when I would describe this, they had no idea what I was talking about. They didn't think that they had a need for it. Our original tagline was "You, period, optimized, period." Nobody knew what health optimization was.
Sure.
Back then. Now it's kind of a common term. I just had it in my head. It was like, well, why wouldn't you want to be the best version of yourself, which is another tagline that we have. And in order to do that, you need all these other people. And there's just like a head scratching, like, I don't get it. Well, I have my doctor. You think I'm going to come to your doctor? And that was just the communication to the student process. The actual assembling of the team was way more difficult than I ever would have imagined. In a business, as you know, assembling teams of people that have different backgrounds and different perspectives is a really important part of having a healthy business.
And building a team, I feel, is the hardest part of the business.
It's the hardest part of the business. Yeah. But generally, if you bring on a head of marketing, they are used to working in teams. They're used to having a finance person there, maybe a CFO, question them on things. Maybe your manufacturing guy will question the marketing guy. Marketing guy will question the manufacturing guy. Like there's some tension, but it's common, right? In medicine, it is not common. In fitness, doesn't exist. They're all working in pods, individuals, and they want that. They don't want to be questioned. They want to fight for credibility with the consumer.
Yep.
They're fighting each other. Like a physical therapist is fighting an orthopedic surgeon, fighting the primary care physician. They all have different opinions. They don't speak to each other. They refuse to.
I have a friend going through some prostate issues right now, and it's interesting because the surgeon wants to cut, the cryologist wants to freeze, the radiologist wants to shrink, the practical medicine guy wants to leave it the hell alone, just keep an eye on it, and everybody's serving their own interest, but there's not a global view of what's really best for the patient.
There's not a global view, and that didn't make any sense to me, because there's a tremendous amount of research, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of knowledge. There's no overlap in those areas of specialization.
You're in a bubble.
And there should be overlap. They should be learning from each other.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was the opportunity. We were just really early. I mean, we were probably 15 years early. What we do today, we still don't have a single competitor that replicates what we do in the United States.
Wow.
Or anywhere that I know of.
So if you were to sum up, in brief, what is Stark Health? What are your core competencies? What's your competitive advantage? What's the future look like?
The core competencies it's the ecosystem. It's not a single practitioner. It's the communication that I described. It is having to give you a more down-to-earth example, if you stick your chin out at the top of a pull-up and tweak your neck, which is a common outcome with poor coaching. Sometimes, not very often, it may happen inside of Stark. And that happens, immediately the communication about that exercise and the neck pain is shared with the chiropractor and the doctor on staff. And a lot has changed in that moment. So there's treatment for the neck, and there's an adjustment to nutrition. So drop inflammation, maybe ramp up protein. The person's not going to be moving as much, so that's the reason to ramp up protein, which is another topic. What other therapies can that person do when they can't move very well, like the sauna and things of that nature? Maybe a cold plunge. So there's a lot that spins around that moment, so that the recovery from that injury is way faster. And then the team learns, like the coach understands from the chiropractor what that spinal position is under stress at the top of a pull-up and why they can't do that. All the way down to the placement of your feet when you're doing a deadlift. Like there are things that are picked apart inside of Stark because of the ecosystem that are little nuggets of wisdom that don't really occur in other businesses that don't have that don't have that ecosystem.
And your clients are able to see this value and feel it make a difference in their life.
Yeah, well,
and I would assume there's a good amount of word of mouth that comes out of that.
There's a lot of word of mouth. That's our primary area, or the way in which we grow. They experience the total experience is generally shocking to the student inside of Stark. It's not uncommon I'll give you a real world example. There's a tech guy that comes to us who is told he was a CrossFitter. He's never going to be able to lift weights again. Can't do lower body exercises. And he, the other day, was deadlifting like 350 pounds. I saw him. And he is a completely different human. Hormonally, sleep, orthopedic health, everything is completely transformed. And it's because of the culmination and the team effort that we're able to pull that off. A lot had to change in order to enable him to get to a point where he can actually do a deadlift. And doing a deadlift wasn't his goal. It was just to be healthy. But if you can't do a deadlift, something is wrong. Developing his glutes took the team effort of the doctor, the chiropractor, and the coach all together at the same time, because it's very complex.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Yeah.
So let's talk about EOers, right?
Yeah.
So most of them are middle age. You're going to have people 35 to 55 is probably 75, 80% of the chapter, at least here, right? And so, Southern California is probably a little healthier in general than most of the country.
I would say, yeah.
But even within that, in the chapter, myself included, I don't walk around ripped as a picture of fitness. What I do find, though, and I'm interested to get your take on this, is you talked about genetics are along for the ride, short of some, if your family has a deep history of cancer or cardiovascular disease, you're going to find that out at this time of life, right? One way or the other. Yeah. But if you don't have that, what I found in my life is very simple things make very big differences. So I walk 4 miles a day, every day. I shared this with you when I came to see you. So wake up, walk 4 miles. It's more mental for me than physical. I used to do a lot more high intensity cardio, but I found that the walking is better for me mentally, and it also was better for me physically in terms of my joints and whatnot, et cetera.
Makes sense.
And then looking at diet, I find that if I eliminate processed carbs and what I'll call garbage carbs, right? So if I'm not eating bread and pizza and pasta and those types of things, and I'm focused more on, low glycemic fruits and veggies, and then a really healthy amount of fat and protein, so that I'm maintaining muscle and whatnot, and eliminate alcohol completely and get some sleep and hydrate, I feel 25. Right now, if I play around with any of those variables, right, and I go down a crappy diet rabbit hole, or if I were to start drinking again, or those types of things, I find very quickly that I feel 48, which I am, right? So how simple is it for most people if they're not, I go down the rabbit hole, kind of not to the extent you have, but I kind of geek out on health and medicine and whatnot. But for people who are not interested in that, and they're not interested in becoming CrossFit people or triathletes, how simple is it really for an average person to just make some basic healthy decisions and experience significant change in their life?
Well, that's a great question. It's quite straightforward and quite simple. The execution therein is not.
Yeah.
And it's It's just because, well, it's hard to change. It's hard to change permanently. And I would, this will be helpful for your audience. If you can make a small change and have it be permanent, that is far better than on January 15th, signing up at 24 Hour Fitness and hiring a personal trainer for 3 months.
Yep.
That is how you are able to become healthy. It's by making a small change. So if you're walking 4 miles a day, if you move it to 4.5 miles a day, that is a small thing. Mm-hmm. That's another 10 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal. Is it going to have a profound impact? Yeah, over 30 years, absolutely, a profound impact. It will change not everything, but a lot. Your orthopedic health, your body composition, your outlook. It'll have some impact on your cardiovascular health. It kind of goes on and on. Your gut health, your digestion, right? It's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's over long periods of time. It's not sexy, and it's not exciting, and that, in most cases, is what prevents people from doing a small thing like that.
So for this audience, you've got a group of middle-aged business owners. Mm-hmm. Let's talk to them and say, you're going to make one small change. What's it going to be?
Okay, let me just think about this for a second.
You just get one.
What's the best place? So the reason I'm processing that is because there's like 50 things in my head, and it's to a certain degree depends on where someone is on that journey.
Sure.
So let's just assume.
Let's say they're the average
middle-aged white man,
half sedentary person.
Okay. I would say that probably the most important thing is to have your sex hormones tested. Mm-hmm. And the likelihood that your testosterone levels, or if you're a female, testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone are not anywhere near optimized, like on the low end. Mm-hmm. And that's a brick wall between where you are and where you want to be. So if you have them tested and you find solutions around that, that will help propel you in the right direction.
So I think that's great. So to me, I wouldn't want to call that passive, but that's something where it's very simple, right?
Okay, you want something
active. No, I think it's good though.
Okay.
So we're going to go to the doctor, we're going to get some blood drawn, and we're going to optimize hormones. Mm-hmm. You don't have to really change any of your behaviors there. You're getting a medical gift, right, to optimize your hormones back to a mid-20s level or whatever. So what's the one active thing you're going to do? Whether it's diet or exercise or.
Let me just so there's a bunch of different ones, but I'll grab one in just a second. If your hormones are optimized, the likelihood that you're going to execute on that one active thing is substantially higher.
Sure. Yeah.
Because sex hormones are primarily a brain hormone. So the receptors are tightly clustered in your brain, and your gonads more so in your brain. And the experience of having them optimized is mostly psychological, intellectual, and emotional. Mm-hmm. And so when you go from being how you feel is normal to super optimistic, the potential that you do things that are good for your health is way higher.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so now let's talk about the active thing. I think that the most powerful solution that everyone can do, with some exception, is walking.
Okay.
Yeah. Walking just more.
What kind of walking are we talking about? You always hear 10,000 steps. That's what you
how
hear.
Much?
I know when I walk my 4 miles and I do my normal day around, it's usually like 14,000, 15,000 steps. Sometimes I'll throw a second walk in if I just want to clear my head, and then it's like 21,000, 22,000. What's kind of an ideal amount of steps or time? Or
ideally, if I can even claim that there is an ideal, because everybody's so different, would be about 10,000 steps.
Okay.
And that means average over the course of the entire calendar year. So there are times of the year, like the summertime, and I try to use the seasons to act as a bit of a guide for myself.
Yep.
Because it's easy to walk more in the summer because the days are longer, you're outside more, and the propensity to move more increases as a result. So what I suggest to people is that you use those seasons to help move you through to higher quality outcomes rather than fighting them. And then the winter rolls, like right now. Right now is the most sedentary time of the year for me. I'm at more parties. I'm socializing more. The days are shorter. I feel more fatigued, feel more stressed. I don't move as much.
Yeah.
And I track all this stuff, and I have for years. I'll go from 15,000 steps a day in the summertime to 7,000 or 8,000 steps a day in the middle of winter right now,
Sure.
or beginning of winter. And I always try to be on the high side of what my averages are. So that's it. The other thought I'll share outside of that specific target in walking more is that you should not try to really go for it when it comes to your health. Like don't do as much as you can right now in the moment, because it will lead to failure. That's the January problem.
Just consistent, deliberate discipline.
Very small. Yeah. The discipline is when you in the moment that you first take action. Let's say you join a gym and you're like, I'm going to be here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and take the weekends off. The moment you do that is the most difficult time to pull back and be honest with yourself.
Sure.
Like, am I really going to average 5 times a week? No. Can I do it now? Yes. But let's try to shoot for 3. That's a doable thing it has to be doable for the rest of your life. Like, I do weight training on average 3.2 times per week. That's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
I don't need any more than that. I don't try to push myself harder. I don't want to interrupt my ability to execute really well over and over and over again. It's not super sexy.
But it's a sustainable.
exciting.
It's a sustainable part of your life that's manageable.
Yeah, it's fully integrated.
Yeah.
Like steps are in your life.
Yeah.
Fully integrated. It's hard to knock you off your center for that, right? That's where you want to be with any health tactic, including nutrition, sleep. So you just process that. Like, what can I really commit to for the rest of my life?
Sure.
Not for January, not for 2026.
Well,
no New Year's resolution.
Let's pull that into nutrition. So obviously there's all sorts of different, there's people that are paleo and they're vegans and they're carnivores and they're this and they're that. So in your mind and experience and what you've seen in your clients is, I know that you're very big on data and the clients being tested. It's very science driven, right?
Yep.
What do you find is kind of, what's the simple 90-second version of this is a sustainable, healthy way to eat that can carry you through your lifetime? And that's a very complex question.
The simple answer to that is something closer to a carnivore diet than a vegan diet, which is to say it's a lot of fish, a lot of meat, and high quality versions of those. They have to be high quality versions of those.
Not salami.
Right. Some fiber, like a decent amount of fiber from vegetables and fruit. Curbing as much processed sugar as you possibly can. And that's about it.
And you have the mindset that sugar's the devil, not cholesterol?
Absolutely.
Is that what you see in the data?
Absolutely. Yep.
Because you look at a lot of data.
Yeah, we will have Mormons come in that don't drink because they're Mormons and have high levels of visceral adipose tissue, which is the fat in and around your organs, kind of pushes your belly out, and high triglycerides. And we know that person eats a lot of sugar. They can tell us, I stopped 6 weeks ago, we retest them, their triglycerides are still high, their visceral adipose tissue is high. We look at them and we're like, you're still eating sugar. Yeah. They're like, yeah, you're right. We're like, you can't escape. Like, we can see it. That's a devastating cardiovascular collection of markers right there.
Yeah, so kind of what I was mentioning then. So some low glycemic carbs, lots of healthy fats and proteins.
Yeah, don't do things like juice.
Yeah.
Don't strip the fiber from the fruit
Yeah.
and just eat the juice, which is sugar water.
Yeah.
Keep it all together like nature designed. So your body has to unwrap the sugar from the fiber when you digest it. It's fantastic that way. Eat real whole foods.
And when I came to see you, I remember you said that one of the main challenges you have with clients, or the clients have, is alcohol. I think you had said it's the single worst thing you could put in your body. Yeah. So take us through why that's the case, and what are the challenges you see, and how do people overcome that?
Okay, this is the point at which
we see it a
people hate
lot
me.
in the EO YPO group.
This is the point at which everybody in EO turns their ears off.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and the way you described it is perfect. It's a brick wall. So what happens when you take a drink? Your body signs the alarm bells go off, and your body's like, we have a toxin. Everything stops except dealing with the toxin. That's the point at which you have that euphoric feeling. Just a little bit of a buzz, a single drink. Your body is processing that toxin, and everything else goes into storage. So if you're having it with a meal,
you're not metabolizing fat.
No,
or
it's all going into storage, and you end up with too much circulating blood sugar, which is why you get high triglycerides, and the excess storage area, like the fast place to store sugar, is visceral adipose tissue. So we see that expand very quickly. Interestingly, and this is a hopeful part of the story, is that if you do stop drinking, that visceral adipose tissue comes down very quickly. Like we'll have people stop drinking completely for a month, and we'll see 2 inches off their waist. It's very, very fast. Like those are emergency reserves. Your body's trying to protect itself.
Yep.
And so it also turns around the other way. It starts to heal itself fairly quickly in the absence of those toxins. So that's really it. It's that the body has to deal with the toxins. Everything else gets stored. That's a simple way to think about it. Anyway.
Sure. What are the other negatives, though? So other than your belly's going to stick out, when you say it's the worst thing.
Oh, well, I mean, that's just one of the measurables that your belly actually sticks out. It's a cardiovascular risk marker. So visceral adipose tissue and high triglycerides mean the likelihood of having a heart attack or stroke are substantially higher.
Sure.
So you're killing yourself, basically. Yeah. You're doing it maybe slowly. Maybe for one person, genetically speaking, they have a heart attack at 50, another one at 60, another one gets a stroke at 70.
Yeah.
But you're going down that road.
And then there's a lot of research now that it's very carcinogenic, right? They went from saying a glass or two of wine a day is good, and when you strip away all the nonsense, you get down to the fact that any amount is a carcinogen. I think it was classified as a class 1 carcinogen.
Yeah, it is. It's devastating in a bunch of different ways. And you probably remember this. At least I remember my dad. He had a quintuple bypass. His cardiologist told him it's good for you to have a couple of shots of whiskey a night. Mm-hmm. That was in like the 90s.
Yeah.
So things have changed a lot, right? But here's a contrary thought. Young people have stopped drinking.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking. They kind of stop socializing. Reflect back on your younger years.
Oh, yeah.
When you went out to bars Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe Sundays.
Tuesday,
whatever. Like you went to them a lot. What were you doing?
Socializing.
Socializing.
Socializing, playing pool, shooting darts.
And what happens in the social, or hitting on girls?
Yeah.
Like you're refining your ability to connect with people in that process. And alcohol sort of removes the fear of doing so.
So you just sort of,
it's a social lubricant. And I think for young people, this is going to sound crazy. I think it's a good idea to go do those things. Like there's so much change in how they're living their lives. They're not developing those skills like we did when we were young. That's a very important. They can handle the physiological implications. Most of them can. And there's going to be a lot of stupid things that spring from them, like bar fights and stuff.
Sure.
But that's also like you're learning in real time. You're
also
about
building
those
skills in those areas.
Yeah, you're learning.
The other challenge I think is the phones. I have 3 teenagers. So I have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And none of them got phones till they were 13. They have them, and it's
very smart.
Precipitously, but it sounds great, but precipitously within 2 months, they've almost regressed to the mean.
I can see that.
So I collect them at night at 8:30, so they don't have them full time. That's another kind of barrier I give to them. But I think there's a huge social implication for that I think is very bad for both mental and physical health. Luckily my kids are all involved in sports or theater, so they're forced to be active. Yeah. But when they're not at training or at practice, they're on a phone. And I think that you're getting those cheap dopamine hits that can be endless, right? Where 3 hours can go by. I mean, I even find sometimes I'm looking, next thing I know 30 minutes went by and I have to slap myself in the face.
Me too.
And go, what the hell am I doing? This is a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
Right. And I worry about the implications for their mental health and their physical health. Because you can see the rate of childhood obesity and sedentary, et cetera. So it's,
you can't really separate mental health from physical health. They're really all bundled into the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no separation.
So for an EO member that's interested in checking out your facility, what does that look like?
You mean like how do you start? Or
what's the process?
So there's an intake process that they go through that includes a DEXA scan for bone mineral density and for body composition. They get a full medical intake, run hundreds of labs, do an orthopedic assessment. So we're looking at internal health, we're looking at body composition, we're looking at your ability to move, and those all play a critical role in determining how you will go from where you are to where you want to be. And your job is to tell us really where you want to be. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're like, you shouldn't pursue that. Right now you should pursue this other thing. Like let's get your triglycerides down, for example.
Sure.
And then in 2 months, when it's optimal, then we'll go to that next thing that you want to accomplish. So the communications, back to that team of business people in manufacturing that consulted with each other in launching a new product, that same thing occurs with the student inside of Stark. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, should we even do this? Should we change course? This is the data. What do you think? So it's a collaboration right from the beginning. And the way that looks from an execution standpoint is there's a training program that's written. That's strength training. There is a prescription for walking typically. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it's 6,000 steps a day, 10,000 steps a day, it just depends. There's a prescription for zone 2 cardio. There's a prescription for some sort of mobility homework, which is a critical part of aging really, really well. Mm-hmm. There's a detailed nutrition plan. There are guidelines around improving sleep. Like it's comprehensive.
And what does the timing look like? So if somebody said, hey, this sounds pretty interesting, they call you or email you, et cetera, how long does it take for them to kind of get going?
We're usually booked out a couple weeks for that intake.
Yeah.
And the intake is several people. So it usually is about a 3 or 4 hour project.
Got it.
And then it takes us about a week to gather all the data. The various practitioners gather their pieces of the data, create their parts of the program, collaborate with each other, and about a week later we can start executing on it.
Awesome.
Sometimes it takes a couple weeks to get certain labs back, and so it pushes it off a bit.
And what does the cost look like for the original intake? And
the cost is $1,000 for the intake plus the cost of labs. EO members get that for $500. And then the ongoing cost is $500 a month if you execute wherever, 24-hour fitness, and we're communicating with you on coaching you through some of those lifestyle, nutrition, and training programs. We write your programs all the way up to, we have students that spend as much as maybe $5,500 a month, mm-hmm. and they're doing, they're in our building like 5 or 6 days a week.
Got it.
They're doing training, they're doing mobility services with our chiropractic team. They're buying all the supplements that we recommend, which are advanced. They're doing more frequent labs. Maybe they're on TRT. They're doing the whole thing. And
you feel confident that regardless of where someone's at, you can see significant difference, whether they're morbidly obese right now or they've been a competitive athlete for a long time.
Yeah. With the things like access to GLP-1s, the morbidly obese category, we're successful in. Without that, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's nearly impossible because they can't. Their level of belief and hope and
Mount Everest is in front of them.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're like, I'd like to lose about 20 pounds, and I do that from time to time, mm-hmm. and it's really not a big deal, and then I regress and it comes back, but I can see it and go, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
But if you got to lose 150 or 200 pounds, you're like, oh,
they can't see it.
I'm going to lose 2 pounds a week.
Yep.
And even though that's really only 50, 70 weeks, which is nothing.
It's nothing.
But it's a lot at the beginning.
They generally don't believe it, and it's one of our biggest problems is to get people to take action on a plan that they don't believe will be successful. That's really hard to do. So we are experimenting with things like ketamine-assisted therapy to give people perspective on themselves in a clinical setting. Yeah. It's a fascinating journey to be able to look at yourself at arm's length for the first time in your life, whether you're 45 or 55, and be like, oh, I did this all to myself, all the good things and the bad things. And I'm in charge. There's nobody else. Like there's not some dude above me pulling the genetic strings. I'm just doing this to myself. I did it all to myself.
Now, for a person who's just kind of learning about this, so a lot of what you're talking about, a traditional doctor is going to be like, no.
Oh, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Right? Yeah. So do your students generally come into your health system where your doctor on staff becomes their doctor, their primary care physician? Or do you run into friction where you've got your team and then they're going to get the regular checkup at the doctor and the doctor's having a fit? Like what happened with you?
It's both.
Got it.
It just depends on the student.
Okay.
It's both. Generally, most of our students have a primary care physician who's a concierge doctor. Like they don't have that many patients, and they can text him or her.
Sure.
And eventually, either the concierge doctor works with us, and we have open lines of communication, which is really rare, or they get dropped.
Got it.
Because they're sort of like, and there are a lot of primary care physicians right now who are trying to evolve quickly to understand how the human body works.
Are you seeing younger doctors are much different than older doctors, I would assume?
We are. A lot of the younger doctors are questioning the medical system itself.
Yeah.
The older doctors are, but they don't exactly know what to do about it.
Yeah.
And they are just like flaps down. I need to kind of retire and get out of this.
Yeah, I just went out of
It's
here.
too big of a change. It's too big of a change. Yeah.
Well, let me talk about the sponsoring of EO. So
Yeah.
how did that come about?
A Stark student, his name's Josiah, reached out to me, and
Josiah just did this podcast last week.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to listen to that one. when do you get them out?
It'll be about a week from now.
About a week. Okay. So he told me that I should join, and I just said, if you think it's going to help me, I'll do whatever you say. I had no idea like what I was getting into. I just signed up.
And this is very recently, right?
Yeah, it was maybe 3 months ago.
So what's been your experience thus far?
My experience was that the members are really heavily focused on their own personal and professional development, more so than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more sophisticated business people than I expected. I just assumed, it was my bad, I shouldn't have assumed this, that it would be full of 150,000 revenue a year consultants or something, and accountants and attorneys that were looking to drum up business. But it's not really like that. It's much more diverse than that.
Yeah, I think
very sophisticated business people.
I like the personal development side. Like for me personally, I love the forum that I'm in. So we're all in forums, right? And I'm not going to say I don't get any business value out of it, but it's a very small piece of the pie. I'm one of the larger businesses in the chapter, but I get so much out of it on the personal and family side, et cetera. And then not just getting something out of it, but being surrounded by like-minded people who want to improve in those areas.
Yeah.
And that kind of triangle of business, personal, family, and aren't just there for a good time. I mean, we have a good time for sure, but that's not the primary reason we're there. The primary reason there is to really evolve and develop and grow. And it's been really transformational in my life. Sometimes I get burned out on EO a bit because I'm on the board and I'm in two forums, the regular one.
Yeah, that's right, 2 forums.
And
You
a
told me
larger
that.
business forum. So sometimes events come up, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do this. But then once I'm there, the oxygen comes in, as I mentioned to you before this started, where it's like, wow, I'm breathing oxygen now. This is fantastic. And I always leave there invigorated and refreshed and renewed. So I think that's fantastic. What are your main goals in terms of being a sponsor? What was the initial goal going in, and then has that evolved at all now that you've gotten a little more exposure?
The initial goal was merely to grow the business,
Sure.
Be exposed to more business leaders, which is our primary demographic.
Yeah.
And help them transform their health, and they bring their families in and refer people in, bring management teams and all sorts of stuff. It really enables us to grow. That was it. After spending time with some of you, we had one event at Stark.
Yeah.
Met a bunch of you guys and was really impressed by the group, and then met with your forum group. Super impressed with your forum group. What I think is going to happen is I'll probably join as a member also.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, because I'm not in a group like this. I'm in a couple of health organizations that are specifically focused on health, but it's not like EO at all.
Yeah.
And I've been a Vistage member in the past. I like this organization much more than the Vistage experience.
I've had some Vistage experience too, and it's fine, but it was just business. There wasn't really any depth outside of that. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so you're sold on being a sponsor and probably being a member.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anything else you want to share about the business?
Anything else about the business? No, but there's a thought I want to share with everyone about their health.
Yeah.
Which is my primary motivator. I mean, not everybody can afford what we do.
Sure.
Take action. You don't have any time.
Yeah.
Like, take action now. You don't know when you're going to have some event, and if your health is compromised and you get cancer on top of, let's say, being a type 2 diabetic, man, the odds of being able to run your business, take care of your family, do the things that are really important to you are very, very low. It's not just disruptive, it's devastating to all the people that you love. So I think that health tends to be kicked down the road quite a bit in a business environment.
Taken for granted.
You can't do it. I think if I can influence anybody on this that's listening to the podcast, it would be to recognize that your health is the foundation of everything that you've done. And perhaps it's never been really good and it's been always a little bit shaky. If it's not shaky, if it becomes exceptional, you're going to be able to run a better business, be a better husband or wife or significant other, father, everything that's important to you.
Yeah, I think health is taken for granted. I had a heart condition I shared with you growing up, so I called it a blessing and a curse.
It is a blessing.
I realized at a very young age that the ride's short. You know, I give speeches on 4,000 weeks. You know, that's your life. You know, and it's really 2,000 weeks in the middle where you're in your prime, and they go by like, you know, I make them snap their fingers, and in 18 minutes they're out of weeks.
Oh wow,
right?
that's a good
and
one.
And then recently I've stumbled onto this. I'm working with Taylor on it actually on a separate branding thing. Is what I'm calling the 4% rule, which is 1 hour of the day. So 1 hour of the day is 4%. So that leaves you 96%, right, to do anything else you need. How many people are really investing in themselves for an hour a day and working on themselves for an hour a day? And the answer is very, very few, right? So I'm working on expanding that. I haven't gotten there yet to make my life a 12% rule, which is 4% of my business on my business, not here just grinding away in the business, 4% on my family, where I'm really connecting at a very deep level for an hour, and then 4% on myself, which I've figured out, you know, thankfully. And I look at that and I say, okay, I still have 88% left. Now you got to sleep, but you take that out, and I've still got like 60-something% left, right?
Yeah,
and,
that's a good way to look at it.
But just making that time for doing things that generally get taken for granted. You know, as a business owner, I was sick 2 weeks ago, really pretty sick for about 3 days, and you know, it knocks you on your ass, and you're like, unproductive, and then mentally it's very challenging, right? Because business owners are used to just go, 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 and you know, I'm laying staring at the ceiling. After 3 days, I'm depressed, right? I start to get anxiety, and I told my wife this when I had it, because normally if I get sick, it's like a day. This went on for like 4 days. I'm like, I'm a terrible sick person, and I said that's why being healthy is important. I said, God forbid I ever had cancer and I had to like or needed dialysis or any of those types of things. I don't think this brain is really wired to handle that well at all. Right, but to your point, which I think was very, very profound, is you don't know when there is going to be an event. You know,
you don't.
One of us could have a heart attack sitting right here, right now.
Right, absolutely.
Right, and we don't have a total control over that. But I think, you know, you did an excellent job today explaining some basic practical things that people can take forward, whether they work with you or not. So I really appreciate you coming in, and I hope you enjoyed it
pleasure.
as well.
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
take care.